Hello friend, Zachary Stockill here from retroactivejealousy.com. Today I'm answering a reader email from Fabian. That's a really good name, Fabian. Fabian writes, I've decided to stop asking my partner questions about her past. Well done, Fabian. But I still have written down some questions I would like to eventually ask her. My question is that the right mindset to have? In other words, when I eventually overcome retroactive jealousy, will it be right for me to still ask her those questions as a way of postponing my need of seeking for more details? Okay, Fabian, thank you for your question. This is a method which I don't necessarily advocate, but I would also say if you find this helpful, if it's helping you resist the urge to ask your partner more questions and to cause more drama and to sort of keep the wheels of retroactive jealousy spinning, then by all means. I mean, if you want to journal or whatever, if you find it helpful. I mean, I have some issues with that approach, frankly, because that way when you flip back to that journal, then you see this massive list of questions and that could trigger a bunch of, your jealousy all over again. Might keep you kind of dwelling in these questions that maybe you don't necessarily need the answer to. So I'm a little bit suspicious of this, this technique, but if it's working for you generally, and if it's helping you resist the urge to ask your partner more questions, it might be the right thing for you to do, maybe. However, an important question you should probably be asking yourself as you grapple with these questions is, are these deal breaker questions or not? In other words, do I need to know the answers to certain of these questions to know whether or not I want to stay in this relationship? Because if you have deal breaker questions, like if there's certain things that you know in your heart of hearts and in your calmest of moments, that's also very important. Not when you've got an anxiety attack, or not when you're having a fight with your partner, or not when you're, whatever, dwelling in some men's rights activist forum at 3 a.m. In your calmest moments, when you're really grounded, are these questions that you know you need, not want, need the answer to know if you want to continue in this relationship or not. And the reason I think it's worthwhile to frame it like that is because you don't want to waste your partner's time. In other words, you don't want to just put off asking these questions for 6 months and then, knowing the whole time that these are deal breaker issues for you. Eventually you ask the question and then maybe you don't get the answer you want from your partner, and then you've just wasted 6 months of her time. So you don't want that to happen. However, I have a sneaking suspicion that these are not deal breaker questions. I have a sneaking suspicion that these are probably, the typical irrational retroactive jealousy, the little demon we call retroactive jealousy running away with you. I more often than not, when people write to me with this kind of thing, it's very clear that they know in their heart of hearts that these are not deal breaker questions that I want to ask my partner. This is just this niggling little OCD retroactive jealousy, this little demon in the back of our mind, poking and prodding and looking for more answers, looking for more reassurance. Because for most retroactive jealousy sufferers who are engaged in this cycle, there's this sense, and it might be a subconscious sense, but there's this sense that if I just get the answers to 1 or 2 more of these questions, my curiosity will end, I won't be curious anymore, and my retroactive jealousy will basically just sort itself out and everything will be great. I hope if you've read my guidebook, if you've taken my online course, or even if you just watch the videos in this channel, you know by now that retroactive jealousy doesn't work like that. It's never enough. There's always going to be more questions that the little demon wants to ask. It never ends. So if I were you, I would take some time by myself. You can go meditate or take a walk, go to a park and journal or whatever, and really try to get clear on whether or not these questions that you think you want to ask are deal breaker questions. Now, an example of a deal breaker question might be, I don't know, for example, have you been married before? I'm not saying it's a deal breaker for me. I'm not saying it's a deal breaker or it should be a deal breaker for anyone. Lots of people out there have been married and divorced. Nothing wrong with that. But for some people, maybe they're religious or whatever, some people that's a deal breaker for them. They just don't want to get involved with someone who's been married before. Nothing wrong with that. Your values are your values and you should live true to them. So that might be one example. There's a million and one more that might be deal breaker questions. But really spend time to get to the bottom of whether or not they're deal breaker questions. And spoiler alert, I could be wrong, but more often than not, these are not deal breaker questions that you feel you need the answer to. This is just the annoying little demon retroactive jealousy running away with you, nothing more. and you will never fully scratch that itch, I like to say. You'll never get to the bottom of your retroactive jealousy that way by asking your partner endless questions about their past. So thanks for your note, Fabian. I hope you found this helpful. If anyone watching this found this helpful, please be sure to click the like button below. Also be sure to subscribe to my channel. I can tell by the numbers and the YouTube analytics that a lot of people are watching these videos and not necessarily subscribed to my channel. So it'd really mean a lot to me if you take 0.1 second and click the subscribe button below and click the notification bell as well so you can be notified every time I release a new episode from this channel. Thanks for watching, friends. I'll talk to you again very soon.